Welcome to this podcast on breastfeeding beyond the first month. This podcast is part of a series of educational resources funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, Food, and Nutrition Service for use in the WIC program. I'm happy to introduce Kathy Carruthers with Every Mother Incorporated, and we hope this podcast will help you in your journey with new mothers to enable you to identify potential breastfeeding problems that can arise and help new mothers feel confident they can work through these challenges to meet their breastfeeding goals beyond the first month.
Hello, my name is Kathy Carruthers, and we're here to talk in this podcast about how we can talk to mothers about breastfeeding as their baby grows. You know, beyond that first month, babies really become a lot of fun. They're smiling and responding to their parents. Their little personality really begins to shine. After that first month, breastfeeding also gets easier and easier for moms as she and her baby begin to kind of settle into a lovely rhythm as they learn to understand each other better. You know, for me as a new mom, these were joy-filled moments, and now that I'm a grandmother, I have loved experiencing them all over again. Babies go through a period of very rapid growth in the early weeks and months. During the first 6 months, they're gaining around 4 to 7 ounces every week, and they double their birth weight by the time they reach 6 months of age. By the end of that first year, they have actually tripled their birth weight. However, each baby's growth is very different, depending on his genetic makeup. For example, some babies have very petite parents and maybe smaller. I have found that many mothers love to compare their baby's growth and their weight with other babies who may not be breastfeeding. And so if you have moms that are doing this, you might want to just remind them that breastfed babies typically are leaner, and this is normal. If a mom isn't totally sure, she can check with her WIC nutritionist or with the baby's doctor. Babies also have very different feeding patterns, and that depends again on the baby's age and his size, maybe the mom's milk storage capacity in her breasts, and maybe even her family life. In the early weeks, babies typically breastfeed around 8 to 12 times, or maybe even more, every 24 hours. This helps babies grow, and it helps moms to establish and maintain a good milk production capacity. Once babies start growing, they often become much more efficient at breastfeeding, and they might finish their feedings a little more quickly or maybe a little more efficiently. It's also normal for some babies to do a little thing we call cluster feeding, where they group several of their feedings together back to back. A lot of times babies who cluster feed will pick the evening period when they're overstimulated from the day, or maybe they're preparing for a long sleep stretch at night. That can be very disconcerting to the mom. She doesn't understand, why is this baby nursing so much? And she might assume this means she's running out of milk, but actually it's very normal for babies to go through cluster feeding periods. Another thing that moms may wonder about is why their baby is still waking up at night. We need to remember that babies don't go through those sleep cycles, those lengthy sleep cycles, especially going into the deep sleep state, until they're much older. And they need to wake up. This is part of their growth and development. And all that extra nursing at night helps her to build up her milk production, since her prolactin levels, which is the hormone that makes milk, is much higher at night. Now, babies' stooling patterns can also change as the baby grows. During that first month, babies typically stool around several times a day. Some even have a bowel movement every single time they nurse. But after that first month, it's normal for babies to start now going longer periods between bowel movements. And once they begin solid foods, the consistency is going to change from those lovely loose stools to much more solid stools. Babies also go through periods of rapid growth where it seems like they want to breastfeed very, very frequently for a day or two or even a few days. This is actually called a growth spurt or an appetite spurt. Now, babies have their own unique times to go through a growth spurt, but typically they occur around 2 weeks or 6 weeks, 3 months, and 6 months. Now, one of the things that's interesting is that many mothers believe that the reason the baby is nursing so frequently is because they are not making enough milk. But the reality is, when babies are growing, it can sometimes be uncomfortable for them. Their bones are stretching and moving, and that can cause a great deal of discomfort and cause babies to be very restless. Extra nursing during this time actually calms them. You might remember from the podcast on skin-to-skin contact that being in touch with the mother's body helps bring pain relief to the baby. So when the baby is nursing frequently during a growth spurt, perhaps that's helping to calm the baby and lower his pain levels. So let's talk to moms and reassure her that it's normal for babies to want to breastfeed often during a growth spurt. Breastfeeding is just one special way that she can help calm and comfort her baby during this difficult time. Sometimes the opposite happens and babies just suddenly refuse to breastfeed at all. We call this a nursing strike, and it can last for maybe a few feedings to maybe even several days. It might happen for many different reasons. Maybe the baby is sick or stressed or just feeling a little overstimulated. Most of the time, however, moms never know what caused it. I think the thing to remember as a peer counselor is that when a mom has a baby who has suddenly refused to breastfeed, she might be feeling personally rejected and very sad. And she may also be dealing with engorgement now because her milk isn't being removed quick enough. This mom needs lots of affirmation to help her realize it's not personal. So, what are we going to do for a baby who has suddenly gone on strike? Well, one of the suggestions is to simply dim the lights and the noise a little bit so the stimulations are not annoying to the baby. Maybe try feeding the baby in a different position. I sometimes suggest offering the breast when the baby is a little sleepy, or maybe right before he totally wakes up, or the first time he shows signs of being hungry. And sometimes just holding the baby skin to skin, not to breastfeed, but just to allow him to be close to the mother. That can help the baby to self-attach when he's ready to. As babies grow, I think we need to remember that WIC continues to be a very important source of support by providing food packages for breastfeeding moms and extra foods for mothers and babies who are exclusively breastfeeding. WIC also provides peer counselors just like you to be available to moms and give them support. How long should breastfeeding ultimately occur? Well, I think that is a very personal question, and it's a question that each mom and family are going to have to answer for themselves. I know I breastfed my children all varying lengths, ranging from a few months to a few years. And there's a lot of range of normal here. I think our job as WIC staff is to support what that mom feels is best for her and her family. If that mom chooses to continue breastfeeding beyond the first year, she is really going to need your extra support because she's probably going to be getting a lot of questions and comments about still breastfeeding that baby. Just remind moms that they can continue to provide important antibody protection to their baby even past that first year. The American Academy of Pediatrics actually recommends that babies be breastfed for at least a year, and that beyond that year, to continue nursing for as long as the mother and baby want to. So when she and her baby are ready to wean, you can stand with her. Give her some guidance on how best to end that nursing relationship. For you as a peer counselor, remember, you're here to provide loving support and to help that mom meet her goals for breastfeeding and caring for her family.